In the mountains of Michoacán, Mexico, there exists a village whose parish records from 1713 document something that will chill your blood. Mothers were dragging their newborn children to the church, weeping as they begged the priests to accept them as payment for just one more dose of medicine. In less than 2 years, 73% of the adult population had vanished. But not because of disease or war. They had been systematically transformed into addicts, desperate souls who would sell even their own salvation for a few drops of a golden liquid that smelled of honey and death. The colonial authorities sealed every record, ordered the village to be burned to the ground, and for more than 300 years, the Catholic Church has denied any knowledge of what truly happened in San Miguel de las Sombras. But the documents found in the secret archives of the Vatican reveal the truth. An entire family of physicians turned sacred medicine into the first large-scale mind control experiment in the history of the Americas. Before we continue with this story, one that few channels dare to tell, I want to ask you something. Are you truly ready to uncover secrets that have remained buried for centuries? This channel is not for everyone, only for the bravest, those who seek the truth no matter how disturbing it may be. If you're one of this small group of fearless seekers, subscribe right now, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments which country or city you're watching from. Your support allows us to keep revealing the mysteries that the authorities would rather keep hidden. But to understand how one seemingly devout family managed to turn an entire town into their human laboratory, we must go back to the very beginning of this nightmare, when the Villagómez family first arrived in San Miguel de las Sombras with their miracle remedies. In 1665, San Miguel de las Sombras was a thriving mining town nestled deep within the mountains of Michoacán. With just over 2,000 inhabitants, its cobblestone streets wound between adobe houses with red tile roofs. And in the heart of the town stood the majestic church of Saint Michael the Archangel, built from silver mined in the surrounding hills. Life revolved around faith and labor. Religion and the mines were the twin pillars of the community. A place where everyone knew one another. And the priest's word carried the weight of divine law. It was into this world of devotion and prosperity that the Villagómez family arrived. Don Sebastián Villagómez introduced himself as a learned apothecary trained at the University of Salamanca. Accompanied by his wife, Dona Remedios, who claimed to have been trained by the Sisters of Charity in the art of nursing. Their 3 children, Miguel, aged 25, Carmen, 22, and Rodrigo, 19, completed this family that seemed heaven-sent to cure the ailments of the hard-working miners. Don Sebastián was a man of commanding presence, his beard trimmed to perfection, his dark eyes sharp and calculating. His wife, Dona Remedios, spoke with a calm, soothing voice and carried herself with the grace of a noble woman. She quickly won the hearts of the local women with her knowledge of medicinal herbs and gentle demeanor. The children, too, showed remarkable dedication, working tirelessly day and night in what appeared to be an act of pure Christian charity. The family set up their apothecary in a 2-story house facing the church, turning the ground floor into a clinic and the upper floor into a private laboratory. From the very first day, long lines of sick and weary villagers formed before sunrise, desperate to obtain the miraculous cures the Villagómez family prepared. A mysterious blend of local herbs and imported Spanish medicine. But none of these faithful souls could have imagined that they had just met their future tormentors. And that this first innocent consultation would mark the beginning of the most sinister transformation a town had ever endured. The morning of October 15, 1665, marked the beginning of what secret documents would later call the Great Experiment. Dona Esperanza Morales, a devout 45-year-old woman who suffered from chronic joint pain, unknowingly became the first victim of what the Villagómez family referred to in their private notes as the medicine of dependence. Don Sebastian handed her a small blue glass vial containing a golden liquid that released a sweet, intoxicating aroma. "Take 3 drops every morning and 3 every night," he instructed in his calm, authoritative tone. "But remember, Dona Esperanza, this medicine is powerful. Do not increase the dosage without my approval, it could be dangerous." The effects were immediate, and seemingly miraculous. Within days, Esperanza's pain vanished completely. But something else had changed. Once a quiet, prayerful woman, she now spoke rapidly, her eyes glowing with a strange intensity. She experienced bursts of euphoria followed by deep melancholy, as though her soul had become a battlefield of ecstasy and despair. When the first vial ran dry, Esperanza returned to the apothecary in a panic. Her hands trembled violently, sweat poured down her face despite the October chill, and her voice had taken on a desperate tone that frightened her neighbors. "Please, Don Sebastian," she begged, clutching the wooden counter. "I need more medicine, the pain is back, worse than ever." Don Sebastian observed her with a physician's calm professionalism, though in his eyes there flickered a glint of satisfaction only his family could recognize. "Of course, Dona Esperanza," he replied. "But now you'll need a stronger formula. The cost will be 5 reals instead of 3. She paid without hesitation. That night, after taking her new dose, Esperanza experienced vivid visions she described as conversations with angels. According to testimony later found in the parish priest's diary, she claimed those celestial beings revealed to her the sins of her neighbors, prophecies about the town's future, and secrets of medicinal plants she had never studied. Within weeks, other miners and their families began reporting similar symptoms. The Villagómez remedies became more sought after than ever, and soon, a strange transformation began to overtake San Miguel de las Sombras. Those who consumed the family's medicines developed a physical and psychological dependency that completely altered their behavior. But what had begun as isolated cases of addiction was about to evolve into something far more systematic and terrifying. The Villagómez family had perfected their technique, and were now ready to begin the second phase of their master plan. Over the next 6 months, the influence of the Villagómez remedies spread like a silent shadow across San Miguel de las Sombras. What had begun as a charitable medical practice had now become something far darker, a system of social control built entirely on chemical dependency. The miners who consumed Don Sebastian's tonics showed supernatural endurance, working 16-hour shifts without signs of exhaustion. Their wives, treated with Dona Remedio's soothing syrups, developed a near-hypnotic obedience, following every command without hesitation. And the children, given strengthening elixirs, displayed unusual intelligence, but also an unsettling emotional coldness. Miguel Villagómez, the eldest son, had taken on a role that would chill anyone's blood. Each night, he wandered the streets like a silent specter, supposedly checking on patients' conditions, but his real mission was far more sinister. "How are you feeling today, Dona Maria?" he would ask softly, watching the woman's trembling hands. In his mind, he took note of every symptom, dosage, effect, time of dependency. All of it recorded meticulously in a secret code that mixed Latin and Nahuatl. Meanwhile, Carmen, the daughter, had found a perfect way to exploit the faith of the village women. Every Tuesday, she gathered the most addicted wives in the church basement, under the guise of prayer meetings. "My sisters," she would whisper as incense filled the damp air, "free your souls of all secrets." And they obeyed. In trance-like states induced by the vapors of their medicines, they confessed everything. Where they hid their jewelry, their husband's sins, how much silver each family kept. But perhaps the most disturbing of all was Rodrigo's work with the children. The youngest Villagómez had discovered that young minds were the easiest to mold. "Drink your syrup, little one," he would say with a smile that never reached his eyes. "It will make you strong, like an angel." He called them the little angels. These children, altered by the concoctions, became the family's spies. Reporting every word, every secret, every plan whispered in their homes. Even Father Anselmo Guerrero, the parish priest of San Miguel de las Sombras, had fallen under the spell of the Villagómez medicine. His sermons, once centered on virtue and salvation, now spoke of sacred plants and holy medicines. Under the influence of the tonics, the priest began to experience visions, which he believed were divine revelations, but were, in truth, carefully induced hallucinations designed by Don Sebastián himself. With the town's spiritual leader now under their control, the Villagómez family had secured their position. But their ambition knew no limits. What came next would be remembered as the construction of the most sophisticated system of control the human mind had ever conceived. As 1666 progressed, the Villagómez system of control became even more elaborate, and far more terrifying. Don Sebastián had developed what he proudly called personalized medicine, crafting unique formulas for each patient depending on their social rank, temperament, and usefulness. The strongest miners received stimulants that boosted their endurance, but also made them violently loyal to the family. The women of the local elite were given sedatives that kept them docile and pliant, while their husbands were prescribed mixtures that heightened desire but clouded critical thought. The town's economy transformed completely. The Villagómez family had invented a new currency, desperation. People no longer paid just with silver. They began to offer secrets for stronger doses, sexual favors for special medicine, and unpaid labor in exchange for relief from withdrawal pain. Some even surrendered their own children as apprentices in the family's laboratory. Don Sebastián smiled as he counted his profits. In less than 2 years, they had amassed a fortune of over 200,000 silver pesos. But money was never their true goal. What they sought was power, absolute control over human life. And to achieve that, they needed a place to conduct their most ambitious experiments, away from prying eyes. That was when Dona Remedios announced the construction of a new facility. The Hospital of Lost Souls. "It will serve those who are gravely ill," she told the townspeople in her gentle, compassionate voice. "Those who require special care and isolation." The villagers applauded her generosity. After all, what could be more Christian than caring for the sick and forgotten? If only they had known the truth, they would have burned the building before the first stone was laid. In just 6 months, the hospital rose. 3 floors of horror disguised as Christian charity. On the first floor, known as the Hall of Whispers, patients were kept in controlled states of delirium. Men and women who had once been respected citizens now floated through constant hallucinations. "Tell me about your husband," Carmen would whisper to a woman who stared at dancing golden dragons on the walls. And the woman would talk, spilling secrets, revealing hidden treasures, family plans, all while believing she was speaking with the Virgin Mary. The second floor, called the Garden of the Senses, served a different purpose. Here, Don Sebastián experimented with combinations of drugs to study how they altered the 5 senses. "Look at the flowers," he would say to a miner while pointing at a bare wall. Under the influence of hallucinogenic fungi, the man described paradisiacal gardens that existed only in his poisoned mind. But the third floor was something that would have made even the most fearless inquisitor tremble. It was called the Observatory. And it housed Don Sebastián's greatest, and most diabolical, creation. The living dead. 12 human beings whose wills had been completely erased through a precise chemical combination. Their bodies functioned, they breathed, walked, and worked, but their minds were gone. They felt no pain, had no desires, and never disobeyed. They were perfect slaves, born not from sorcery, but from science. The recovered documents describe how Don Sebastian had classified his patients into 5 groups. Workers, miners and artisans useful for labor. Informants, those with access to valuable secrets. Breeders, young women selected to produce new subjects. Guards, men turned into mindless enforcers of the family's will. Disposables, victims used in fatal experiments. This horrifying system worked flawlessly for nearly 2 years, turning San Miguel de las Sombras into a human machine of obedience and fear. But the Villagómez family hadn't foreseen that their very success would soon draw the attention of the most dangerous authorities of the Spanish viceroyalty. In March of 1667, the arrival of an unexpected visitor threatened to expose everything the Villagómez family had built. Fray Domingo Vasquez, an inquisitor sent from Mexico City to investigate irregularities in the town's religious practices, arrived without warning on a cold spring morning. Fray Domingo was a 50-year-old veteran of countless investigations into witchcraft and heresy. A man with a reputation for being incorruptible, one who had survived bribes, threats, and even poisoning attempts. His visit coincided with what the Villagómez family called the Day of the Harvest, a monthly ritual during which they gathered all the information extracted from their patients and planned new experiments. The inquisitor stayed in the home of Don Fernando Morales, the town's mayor, one of the earliest adepts to the Villagómez medicine. However, Fray Domingo was no ordinary investigator. Over the years, he had developed a deep mistrust of any substance that altered the mind. He lived on a strict diet of bread and holy water, which he personally blessed each day. From his first days in San Miguel de las Sombras, Fray Domingo observed everything with a trained eye. Something was terribly wrong. The townspeople moved with strange stiffness. Their eyes gleamed with an unnatural light. And there was something deeply disturbing in the way everyone worshipped the Villagómez family. "How long have you been taking this medicine, my son?" the inquisitor asked a miner during confession. "Since the arrival of the holy healers, Father," the man replied, smiling, though his pupils were unnaturally dilated. "They have saved us from every illness." Fray Domingo had seen that look before, in witches and heretics under the influence of forbidden potions. That night, during dinner at the mayor's house, he noticed Don Fernando adding a few drops of a transparent liquid to his wine. "It's preventive medicine, Father," explained the mayor in a monotone voice. "Don Sebastian insists we all take it." The inquisitor pretended to drink, but discreetly poured the contents into a nearby flower pot. By morning, the plant was dead. Alarmed by the inquisitor's questions, Don Sebastian called an emergency family meeting. The problem was clear: Fray Domingo was not under their control. And his presence represented a mortal threat to everything they had built. "We must act quickly," murmured Don Sebastian, his eyes cold and determined. "With inquisitors, there are only 2 outcomes: corruption, or death." The first attempt to subdue him was almost artistic in its simplicity. During Sunday Mass, Carmen approached the altar disguised as a devout believer. With precise movements, she applied an invisible substance onto the chalice that Fray Domingo would use for communion. He drank the consecrated wine without suspicion. Within minutes, the effects began. During his sermon, Fray Domingo spoke with supernatural eloquence, pointing directly at 3 members of the congregation. "I see your sins," he declared in a booming voice. "The Lord reveals your darkest secrets to me." Ironically, those three were the only people in town who had not taken the Villagómez medicine. For a week, the plan worked perfectly. The Inquisitor became more receptive, more trusting of Don Sebastián's blessed practices. Every night, he experienced visions, angels whispering in his ear, saints revealing hidden truths. And most conveniently, those divine revelations always endorsed the family's actions. But the Villagómez family had overlooked one critical detail. 300 kilometers away, in Mexico City, Brother Tomás, Fray Domingo's assistant, had begun to notice something was terribly wrong. The Inquisitor's letters spoke of non-existent saints, described miracles that contradicted church doctrine. And, most disturbingly, his handwriting had become erratic and strange. Brother Tomás wasted no time. He rode straight to the headquarters of the Holy Office, spreading the letters across the desk of his superiors. "Something terrible is happening to Fray Domingo," he declared. "He's either being poisoned, or he's lost his mind." Within hours, a second inquisitorial commission was being assembled. 5 armed men and a physician specialized in poisons. Their destination, San Miguel de las Sombras. On the 15th of April 1667, a second inquisitorial commission, 5 armed men and a physician trained in poisons, set out for San Miguel de las Sombras. But the Villagómez family, alerted by their network of informants, had 3 days to act. 3 days to execute their most desperate and horrific plan, what their private journals called the final solution. Cornered like wild beasts, these so-called healers were about to show how far they would go to protect their secrets. What happened in those last 72 hours would surpass every horror they had unleashed before. On the night of April 17, 1667, Don Sebastián gathered his entire family in the laboratory on the hospital's 3rd floor. It was time to carry out what his notes chillingly described as the last sacrament. The family had come to a grim conclusion. The only way to protect their experiment was to eliminate every trace of it, including the living witnesses. Miguel Villagómez, the eldest son, had spent the last 3 days preparing a concoction they called the medicine of oblivion. It was a lethal blend of hemlock, belladonna, and hallucinogenic fungi extracts. A poison that would kill within hours. But only after causing visions so intense that the victims would die believing they were ascending to heaven. Their plan was horrifyingly simple. They would mix the poison into the communion bread for Sunday Mass, killing the entire congregation in what would appear to be a divine miracle. A mass ascension of the faithful. Only the Villagómez family, and a few townspeople not yet under their control, would survive. The latter to be accused of witchcraft and executed as scapegoats. Carmen Villagómez took charge of baking the poisoned bread, working all night in the church kitchens. Her hands, trained by 2 years of alchemical precision, mixed the deadly ingredients with the calm of a professional assassin. Meanwhile, Rodrigo Villagómez set about destroying physical evidence. Burning laboratory documents, burying chemical vials in the cemetery, and administering fatal doses of poison to the living dead on the 3rd floor, freeing them through death. Dona Remedios had the most personal task: to poison Fray Domingo Vasquez himself. By then, the Inquisitor was in a constant drug-induced trance. Convinced he was experiencing his final days before divine ascension. Remedios gave him the fatal dose disguised as a holy medicine to purify his soul before meeting the Creator. Fray Domingo died that same night, smiling peacefully. His last recorded words, written by Don Sebastián himself, were, I see the angels coming for me. How beautiful is the paradise they have shown me in this blessed town. But the Villagómez family had made one fatal mistake. Brother Tomás, worried by 3 days of silence from his superior, had not only alerted the Holy Office. He had also warned the Viceroy of New Spain. The Second Commission, now accompanied by soldiers, physicians, and an expert in European poison cases, was already on its way. At dawn on April 18, as the townspeople arrived for Sunday Mass, they found the church doors locked and a message written in Fray Domingo's blood. The angels have called their faithful servants home. May God have mercy on our souls. The Villagómez family had vanished overnight, taking with them a fortune in gold and silver, and several vials of their most powerful concoctions. The only traces of their presence were the corpses of their final victims, and a laboratory filled with evidence of experiments beyond human comprehension. When the Inquisitorial Commission arrived at San Miguel de las Sombras on April 19, 1667, they encountered a scene that surpassed even their darkest fears. More than 300 people had died under mysterious circumstances in just 48 hours. And the survivors displayed severe symptoms of poisoning that took months to fully disappear. The official investigation into the Villagómez case lasted 3 years and produced over 2,000 pages of testimony, medical analysis, and documentation, all of which were immediately classified as state secrets by colonial authorities. The town of San Miguel de las Sombras was officially dissolved. The surviving inhabitants were relocated across different regions of Mexico, and all records related to the case were sent directly to the Vatican's secret archives. In his final report, Captain Hernando Mejia, head of the military investigation, wrote, "What we have found in this place defies human understanding. A family that appeared devout turned an entire town into their personal laboratory, transforming human beings into subjects of experimentation more brutal than anything seen in our wars against the infidels. Their knowledge of plants and minerals surpassed that of Europe's most experienced physicians, and their ability to manipulate the human mind was diabolical in its perfection." The Villagómez family was never captured. In the following years, reports began to surface of miracle apothecaries appearing in distant corners of the Americas, from Peru to Colombia, and even across the Atlantic in Spain. Each case bore the same marks: extraordinarily effective remedies, patients who became dependent, and mysterious disappearances whenever authorities drew near. Historians believe the family created a network of collaborators to continue their experiments in secret locations. The fate of their medical knowledge remains one of the most disturbing mysteries of the colonial era. Their methods, altering consciousness, manipulating behavior, and inducing chemical dependency, were centuries ahead of their time. Fragments of their surviving notes suggest that the Villagómez family had developed early forms of what we would now recognize as psychological conditioning, mind control techniques, and synthetic drug experimentation. Father Ignacio Zamora, a priest sent to bless and purify the town before its final abandonment, wrote in his personal diary, "I have devoted my life to fighting evil in all its forms. But never had I witnessed such a complete perversion of the Christian mission to heal and serve one's neighbor." The Villagómez were not merely criminals or heretics, they were something far worse: scientific geniuses without moral conscience, capable of turning medicine into an instrument of enslavement. The Church of St. Michael the Archangel was demolished stone by stone, and the silver used in its construction was melted down and redistributed among other cathedrals, to purify the metal from any lingering evil. The land where the town once stood was declared cursed by ecclesiastical authorities, and remained uninhabited for more than a century. Recently declassified documents from 1987 revealed that the Vatican secretly investigated the Villagómez case for more than 2 centuries, following traces that connected the family to similar incidents in Peru, Colombia, and even Spain. The last official reference dates to 1891, when an apothecary in Lima was arrested by the Peruvian Inquisition, under suspicion of using Villagómez methods to control his patients. In the Vatican archives, the case remains classified under the code name Experimentum Diabolicum, the diabolical experiment. To this day, it is considered one of the most extensively studied examples of medical heresy within the Catholic Church. Experts who have accessed the restricted files agree on one thing: the Villagómez family represented something unique in human history. A perfect fusion of advanced scientific knowledge and absolute moral corruption. Their understanding of the human mind and body was centuries ahead of its time. Their techniques of psychological manipulation and chemical control would not be seen again until the dark experiments of the 20th century, during the era of totalitarian regimes and unethical human trials. But perhaps the most disturbing mystery of all is that no conclusive evidence was ever found of the Villagómez family's deaths. Their bodies were never recovered, and testimonies from surviving villagers suggest that the family had been preparing their escape for months. Some historians believe that their knowledge, and their bloodline, may have survived, passed secretly from generation to generation, waiting for the right moment to resurface. In 1962, during construction of a new road near the region where San Miguel de las Sombras once stood, workers unearthed a small blue glass vial buried 3 meters underground. Inside was a golden liquid, perfectly preserved after nearly 3 centuries. Chemical analysis revealed a composition so complex that even modern scientists could not identify all its components. The vial was sent to the Vatican secret archives, where it remains to this day. The story of the Villagómez family serves as a grim reminder that knowledge without conscience can become the most dangerous weapon ever created by humankind. In an age where medical science advances faster than ever, it is worth remembering that the true monsters of history are not supernatural beings, but humans who choose to use their intelligence to exploit the weakness of others. Before you leave, I want to ask you a question, one that not everyone dares to answer. Do you really believe a story like this could never happen again in our time? If this tale made you question the trust you place in medical and religious authorities, then you are part of a rare group of truth seekers who refuse to accept official versions of reality. This channel isn't for everyone. Only for the brave who wish to uncover the secrets others prefer to keep hidden. So, if you're one of them, subscribe, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Your support helps us continue revealing the stories that no one else dares to tell. Because the greatest horrors in history are not born from the supernatural, but from the human mind's boundless capacity to turn science and faith into tools of control and destruction.